Welcome to the Chattanooga Depression Care Collective member interview series. I'm Regina with Wellspring, and my world is all about helping people rebuild after a depressive episode. And I'm here with Dr. Mel from Wildflower Chiro.
Hello. I'll say thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to talk about who you are, what you do, how it helps with depression, and why you do it.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So I am Dr. Mel. I am a chiropractor. I love being outdoors. Nature is my happy place, which is why I moved to Chattanooga. I grew up in New York, and I have just fallen in love with hiking in the mountains, things like that. I have a almost 5-year-old daughter. I'm married, and I am just all about health and wellness. I'm a huge nerd. So I try to not tie a lot of what I do directly into my identity, but it kind of is my identity.
Yeah, you're a business owner,
I'm
too.
a business owner. I love healing people. And I was just really kind of drawn to healing people ever since I was like very little. I was always the mom of like my friend group and things like that, and just wanting to help. So, yeah.
You have a really powerful story for why you do what you do too, so we'll
Yes.
definitely get into that
Okay.
if you want.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
just give a little overview of what you do.
Yeah. So I'm a chiropractor, but most people think chiropractors are like, oh, my neck hurts, ka-chow. And it's a little bit more than that. Chiropractic focuses on your brain and body connection. So it's more of a nervous system doctor than it is a musculoskeletal doctor.
Okay.
I primarily do psychosomatic based chiropractic care. So what I do is I kind of look at what your external environment is doing to your internal environment. Eventually, I plan on having fancy technology that can objectively measure what your body's actually doing in response to stress. But right now, I have a subjective form that I have people fill out that kind of figures out where you are in like a stimulation category. So based on how your body is responding to stress and how stimulated or understimulated it is, I adjust accordingly. There's my dad joke. And so some people need more instrument-based care because their nervous system's a little too overstimulated. Some people are need more manual care because their nervous system's a little understimulated. So I kind of figure out what that is going on, what's going on there, and then I adjust my patient based on that. The other thing that makes me a little bit different about being a chiropractor is I've also been a massage therapist for almost a decade, which is crazy to say.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I incorporate 20 minutes of soft tissue work. So all my visits last 30 minutes. Some people I've gotten to the point of wellness care where they're like, I don't even really feel like I need the massage, but I just want to come and like sit in your space and like talk with you for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, sure. Your 30-minute appointment is yours. Most people like the mushins is what I call it. And so I do a lot of targeted soft tissue work that incorporates breath work and things like that to kind of bring your body's awareness, or your brain's awareness back to your body. And that kind of sets a good tone for your body to take in an adjustment.
Your brain's awareness back to your body. That's a juicy line.
Yeah, yes. I'll say we're going to have to patent that one.
Yeah, I was like, that might be the title of this video.
Right.
So I'm hearing that nervous system doctor stuck out, and
Yes.
like your nervous system is the system that translates outside stuff to inside stuff.
Exactly.
And vice versa.
Yes.
And so like being a nervous system doctor who can like kind of attend to that system, that inside out relationship, and help address the problems that are getting in the way, that are exacerbating some suffering.
Exactly. And so I like kind of what you said, inside out. In chiropractic, we actually have a saying that the body heals from above down, inside out. And you can kind of take that and play with it how you want. If you are like religious or spiritual, you can say like literally above down, inside out. If you want to take it from like a straight science and physical perspective, you can say above the brain, down the spinal cord, inside the spinal cord, out to all the cells, tissues, and organs in your body. And then if you want to take it back to the spiritual realm, that can be out from the cells, tissues, and organs in your body into your basically like energetic biosphere. And so how your body is healing. And so we kind of start at that basis. Now, as we know, the brain controls pretty much everything in our body, and it does that through feedback from our external and our internal environments. Now, there are things that play into it, like, chemical imbalances and whatnot, but I like to look at things from a whole body perspective because we are multifaceted beings and need to be treated as such. One of the long-term goals is to actually have like a whole wellness center that does treat mind, body, spirit care. And so I'm also networking with a naturopath to help with like the gut part of that.
Yeah.
And so
this is also like why we're in community is because it's like, look at this ecosystem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that component of it is like, getting into like the depression and side of that.
Yeah, talk about how chiropractic helps with depression.
Yes. So there are lots of different reasons why people become depressed. Sometimes it is just the chemical imbalances. Sometimes it's environmental. Sometimes it's kind of a combination of a lot of different things.
Being human is hard. And sometimes depression happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so with chiropractic care, obviously chiropractic isn't going to specifically cure anything aside from removing neurological interference.
It's not about like fixing everything right now.
Exactly. And so what it is it's preparing your body to be able to adapt to its environment a little bit better.
Ooh.
So between all of the other components that you have, gathered in the, ecosystem, this is going to help all of those things adapt a little bit better. And so it's kind of like, I think about it as like the glue in a way, because if your nervous system is, I like to say, on fire, and not like in like the greatest way, if your nervous system's on fire and you're trying to like heal, you can't heal while your house is still on fire. Like you have to put the fire out, start the healing process, maybe, redo some walls, there's a lot of maintenance that has to happen first. So chiropractic is more of getting the bones physically and metaphorically of the house in order, so that way we can bring in a cute new couch or things like that.
Yeah, so like the nervous system is the thing that does the integrating and the processing for the body.
Yes.
And the work you do is to make it so that system is capable of processing and integrating, and isn't to like fight, flight, or freeze all the time.
Exactly.
And can like settle in
and
make sense of the depression and like, hey, I'm okay. I can like, how do I get through this?
Exactly. And so one of the things that I like to say is I use the gut a lot as like an example. And so, we have our gut brain, and half of your dopamine and serotonin is actually produced in your gut, which, if your gut's not happy, then our brain is not happy.
Yeah.
And so let's say you are making the changes, you're starting to eat better, but you're like, I still feel so stuck. If there's a neurological interference somewhere where your brain can't talk to your stomach the way that it's supposed to, you might be putting in all these good things, but your brain doesn't really, it's like on lag. So imagine like the little loading screen. And so that is one way that the brain can regulate. The other thing too is when you talk about fight, flight, freeze, fawn, your atlas bone, which is the first bone in your neck, is
holding the weight of the world.
Literally holding the weight of the world. Your brain, your skull. That there's studies shown that you have brainstem type tissue, so it's not actually your brainstem because we don't want our brainstem to extend past the bottom of our skull, but your brainstem is responsible for a lot of those like basic regulatory processes, blood pressure, heart rate, breathing. And so those are a lot of the things that we fall into when we're in fight or flight. And so there's brainstem tissue that extends down all the way almost to C2. And so if your atlas is shifted and it's putting pressure on the nerves that are coming out right there, that can in turn put pressure on your spinal cord right there. And that can trigger a fight flight response because your body's like, something's wrong with my basic master control system that is keeping me alive. So if your body feels threatened, like it's like, okay, it's not going to be able to rest and heal and digest. So atlas is like the number one thing that I always check on everybody. So
because if you're in that threat state, you can put all the good inputs in, but your body is like, we don't need to digest right now.
Exactly. And if you're not digesting, absorbing nutrients and stuff like that, your body's not getting the building blocks to recreate these hormones and these things that you're trying to do to maintain a good homeostasis or allostasis.
Because your body is incredible and really, really good at healing itself. And when you give it the tools that it needs to heal, it does what it does. And then, but when it gets blocked, that's when having someone like you come in and like hold the system and be like, hey, here's how we can calm it down.
Exactly. And one of the things that I like to tell people is, like we said in the beginning, a lot of people come to chiropractors because they have neck and back pain. Pain is actually the last thing that your body will show up. So if you have, even if it's like a micro trauma or something that causes your spine to misalign, it can take up to 7 years for your body to actually experience pain at that site. So, and it doesn't have to be a big trauma like a car accident. It can be a micro trauma. It can be an emotional trauma, because when we have emotional trauma, we curl up into a ball and that puts pressure on our spine.
Because everything's connected.
Everything's connected.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Okay. So you help with depression by helping with the adaptability of the system.
Exactly.
If somebody's depressed, when in that depression journey can they come see you?
I mean, anytime, really. I always joke that every body needs chiropractic.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's not just about the pain. It's at any stage. I have seen, myself included, when I go to my chiropractor, I definitely have been through all different life stages, like, you know, crazy life events happening, and my system just goes into shutdown mode, and the depression sneaks in, and going to the chiropractor, like, has definitely helped, and I kind of up my care a little bit when it's more in that acute traumatic phase, and then I can kind of taper off and go into more maintenance care, so that way my body can adapt to bigger traumas later. So it's kind of at any point throughout the care. So.
It's like a way to be held as you do this the hard thing of being human.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And it specifically helps with connection to body.
It does. It definitely brings your body's awareness, especially the way that I integrate chiropractic care. I do a lot of very soft, intentional, gentle touches. And so those things, I sometimes guide people through it depending on their level of comfortability. Some people just want me to stop talking and just work.
Yeah.
Some people like the guided because it helps their brain kind of follow my instruction and says, hey, like, I want you to focus your breath right into this spot. I want you to breathe like good energy into the spot. And so that just kind of brings like an awareness of their body. But once their body's aware of that spot that needs help, then the brain can go to town and start, you know,
being awesome.
Exactly.
So how is the somatic work you do as a chiropractor different than like craniosacral or these other body work techniques?
So craniosacral in like the massage realm, like I said, I've also been a massage therapist.
Yeah.
I'm not trained in craniosacral, but it's similar in the sense that there are a lot of like very soft holds.
Yep.
The difference is that I can work with the spine directly, whereas craniosacral, you're more working with like the scalp and things like that, and like the soft tissue around the cranial or around the sacrum. Whereas I'm working directly with the bones themselves. Okay, so that's like
the bones, not just the soft tissue.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. And then what about like ecstatic dance or like these other like somatic things?
How is it different than, okay.
That would make it specific.
Yeah, and so it's all about intention. And so the intention to release pressure off of a spinal nerve is different. So like moving your body like in an ecstatic dance kind of way is definitely bring awareness to your body. You're moving blood and all different kinds of stuff. So that's like a wonderful way, but it isn't as directed and specific and intentional to certain parts of the body.
So coming to work with you is one-on-one attention to the nervous system, to the spinal cord, to the brain stem, like the bones.
Yes, so the bones and the nervous system where that kind of overlaps, like the neuro-osteological.
Like devoted attention specifically to this.
Exactly. It's all about the intention. So
Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
And I want to know more about why you do this work.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was very little, my mom struggled with mental illness, and I wanted to become a psychologist. And I realized that it was a little too close to home. And so I was like, all right, I want to heal people and help them heal themselves, but I don't really know how. Well, I was in a car accident, and I ended up about 2 months after the car accident, I started getting ocular migraines where I was blacking out. My mom literally had to move my mattress and put it on the floor, and because I was getting dizzy being up on the bed. And I had went to all different kinds of doctors. I got CAT scans and MRIs and all the things. And basically what ended up happening was they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And they're like, I don't know, maybe it's all in her head. And I was 13, so I was like, of course it's all in my head. That's where migraines happen. But, you know, dad jokes.
Yeah, like here's my brain, of course. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I basically was like, something else is going on. Like they wanted to put me on narcotic medication at 13. And my like innate was just like, no, something is not okay with that. And I was not okay with it. So I just decided to say no. And I was at my grandmother's house one day, and I was having a really bad migraine, and my aunt walked in, and she's the epitome of all things kind of crunchy. And she looked at me and said, have you ever tried a chiropractor? And I said, I don't know what that is. And she goes, I'll get your mom to sign the waiver. Let's go. And so I went in, and he explained to me everything, you know, about the atlas bone, and he showed me my x-rays and how my atlas was rotated a couple degrees this way, my axis was rotated a couple degrees the other way, and it was basically choking my spinal cord with the rotation. And so he said, basically when I get stressed out and I hit that stress threshold, it shifts just a little bit more and puts that pressure, and it triggers a migraine. And so that's what was going on. I was like, can you fix me? And he said, I can remove the neurological interference and everything else is just extra. And I love that because that's the philosophy of chiropractors.
Yeah.
And
okay, here's what I can do. And then also you do your work around it.
exactly. And so I was 14 by the time I started seeing him. And I had a migraine the day before I had my first visit. I got adjusted, and I'm 32, and I've not had a migraine since.
It was very,
Yes.
night and day difference.
It was night and day difference. I do get frequent maintenance care. I see my chiropractor anywhere between 1 to 4 times a month, depending on what life be doing. If life be lifing, it's going to be a little bit more. And so I do get that maintenance care, but he looked at me one day and was like, okay, you're a teenager. Like, what do you want to do with your life when you grow up? And I was like, I want to help people. And he's like, okay, well, why don't you be a chiropractor? And I was like, done. And so at 18, I said, okay. And I packed my bags and moved 1,000 miles away from home to Marietta, Georgia, and started my journey to become a chiropractor.
And here you are.
And here I am. And I always have that psychosomatic basis, because that was my foundation and why I wanted to get into it, because the brain is so fascinating. And struggling myself with mental health things, and my mom as well. I actually got my bachelor's degree in biopsychology, so that's kind of more like the biological connection to psychology, and that's what I do for a living. So
yeah, we're in good company. I did neuroscience and anthropology, so we're both like, what does it mean to be human?
Exactly.
How does the brain work? How do we help people?
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to know more about how people work with you. Like you said, you mentioned maintenance care and then acute care.
Yes.
And so tell us more about that landscape.
Absolutely. And so something that I love about myself is I kind of meet people where they're at. Mm-hmm. I know we all are looking at this video and like, this sounds great, but how much does it cost? And so I am definitely open to meeting people. Some people that are going through something very intense, I might want to see them twice a week. There are some chiropractors that want to see people 3-4 times a week. Typically, that's not me. I feel like most people, their nervous systems are good at 1 to 2 times a week if it's more of acute care. Mm-hmm. And then more maintenance care can go. I have a patient who comes and sees me every 6 weeks. And so, $65 every 6 weeks is not terrible for her.
How do you determine acute care versus maintenance care?
It mostly depends on a combination of what their intake form, with the kind of figuring out where they are in the stimulation category.
Tell me more about that, yeah.
Yeah, and so what I did is I basically took a bunch of questions from an anxiety form and a depression form, and then created my own questions and mushed them all together and figured out a score. Uh-huh. And so I have 3 different categories, and there's 3 different scores, and that tells me where someone is. So for depression specifically, some people experience depression as more not clinical like anxiety, but they kind of go, and then they need something to hard stop them, and then when they're hard stopped, it's hard for them to keep going.
Depression is the hard stop.
Exactly.
The check engine light.
Exactly. And so when they hit that kind of hard stop, it depends on how severe their score is. So if they have a very high score, then that's going to be more acute care.
What kind of questions are you asking?
So I ask everything from are you constipated? Are you, what does your diet look like? Are you very anxious? Are you worried about your self-image? Has your sex drive changed? Things from that level, mm-hmm. all the way to if you experience a trauma, how long does it physically take your body to calm down from the trauma? And I do minor and major. And so I had a patient that said that it took their body months to recover mm-hmm. from a major trauma, and psychological or physical. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, months is, as long as it's not broken bones, popping out of your skin, kind of stuff like that. But a major trauma, your body should be able to regulate within at least, 6 to 8 weeks is, mm-hmm. A good, there's no time on grief. There's no time, limit on things like that. But your body should start shifting into more of a regulatory process around that time. If it takes you months.
More than 2 months.
More than 2 months.
What's going on here? Let's bring in some support.
Exactly. And so that's kind of, so time frame, it just depends. I have some people that experience a trauma and they're like, oh no, I'm fine, because they're in that kind of shock stage. And I'm like, let's bring it in.
Tell me more.
Exactly. I have people who experienced something a year ago and their body's just now processing it. So I also use a lot of my case history. I don't just fly through my case history like some people do. I literally sit there and I'm like, I want to talk. I want to have a conversation
So
with
do you
you.
have like an intake session?
I do.
And is that 30 minutes too, or?
So my intake session is 90 minutes,
Okay.
and it is a combination of like neurological testing, stuff like that. But it also, most of it is the case history, because I want people to talk to me like about
Who are you and what have you been through? Like,
Exactly.
Tell me what's happened.
Exactly. And I tell people they don't always have to go into the details of like the emotional trauma, but, you know, kind of vague categories are, you know,
Like, you're
helpful.
not here to diagnose or prescribe, but you're here to understand.
Yeah, I can, and like I have the capability of diagnosing and whatnot, but when it comes to like the psychological stuff,
Yeah.
I kind of like to keep that to the people who that's what they do for a living,
The
is
therapist.
diagnose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but I'm here to hold space for people, and I mean, even if it's a physical thing that's causing them emotional trauma, I've had
It's
patients.
all connected.
Exactly, I've had patients who start talking about something that hurts and just day one starts sobbing.
Yeah.
And I literally will pause. I won't be like, okay, and carry on. You know, I will like, hey, would you like a hug? Would you like me to give you some space? Would you like a tissue? Would you like a
You
hug?
prioritized connection first.
Connection
And-
connection and intention are the pillars of what I do.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Exactly. And so I use the case history really to kind of feel out where this person
Well, to
is.
practice what you preach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I am very open, and I tell all of my patients, like, hey, you're allowed to be human in this space because you are human, and that's okay.
Like, your humanness is welcome here.
Exactly. Exactly. And one of the biggest things that I love telling people is, I might know more about the body than you do, but I don't know more about your body than you do.
You are the expert.
Exactly.
On you.
Exactly.
I'm the expert on chiropractic. Let's see what we can do together.
Exactly. And then we kind of look at the Venn diagram, and that's where I help.
Yes.
So,
Yep, that's amazing.
yeah.
Are there any like requirements that someone has to have to be able to work with you? Like, it's in person
Yes.
in Chattanooga.
Yes.
Willing to, like, financially, it's what, 65 a session ish?
Yeah, about 65 a visit. And then I offer, like, if people do like have like HSAs, like health savings accounts and things like that, I do take HSA. Some people like to bulk pay, and so like if you, let's say I get a care plan that's like $530, usually I'll like knock off the $30 if you can pay all at once. So if you have an HSA and you have all that kind of like money in there,
We'll do it.
that's easier.
And do they have to book at least like a certain number of sessions with you, or is it like you could just do one?
You can do the intake, and then you're not required to come back. I usually ask people that they come back within about 7 to 10 days. I do a follow-up text the next day, because you do get your first adjustment on the first day. And then within 7 to 10 days, that allows me to figure out how their nervous system is going to regulate with and integrate the adjustment.
Yeah. It's gonna take some time.
Exactly. And I do have some people that are like, honestly, like, you know, I want to just come in kind of whenever. And so that I charge $75. And it's like, you tell me when you want to come in. I have a lady that comes in once every 3 months, because that's what she has,
That's what works for her.
That's what works for her.
Yeah.
And so she's great, and she loves it. I also do like stretch sessions and like things like that are a little bit on the cheaper side, and so those are $35 for 30 minutes.
You have a model that's like, hey, I'll meet you where you're at.
Exactly. And so those, like, we can do intentional breathing and things like that. Just can't actually adjust the spine. The only other barrier to entry is if somebody does come up that they need more manual adjusting. I do require x-rays for manual adjusting, because I don't like putting like big forces into the body without knowing what I'm putting a force into.
Thank you.
Yes. And so I work with a couple of imaging centers. I work with Prime Imaging, and I think it's like $150 for 3 films, so you get 2 views on each segment of your spine. I also, if anybody's willing to drive to Cleveland, she does them for $90. And so if you want to save, $60, you can drive to Cleveland and only do that like once, a year.
Awesome.
And so that's really the only other barrier to entry.
A requirement.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I am not on par with Medicare right now. So if you are over the age of 65, I am not capable of accepting patients over the age of 65 right now. But that is coming in the future. So.
Cool. Anything else you want people to know about where to find you or how to work with you?
I'm really big into social media. So Wildflower_chiropractic on Instagram.
Yes.
Wildflower Chiropractic and Wellness on Facebook. I do have a page that has my face on it, and that page got hacked, and I don't have access to it. So if that says just Wildflower Chiropractic with my face on it with red hair,
Don't be fooled.
Don't be fooled. That one doesn't work anymore.
Okay, so Facebook and wellness.
Yes. Facebook is Wildflower Chiropractic and Wellness. Instagram, I'm on there. And then you can text me. I know a lot of people have social anxiety, and so I also prefer texting because I am just me. I don't have a receptionist or anything. So if you want a quicker response, texting.
So the best way to get on your schedule is text?
Yeah.
Cool.
And we can schedule a discovery call for free where we can just talk and kind of like you can feel my vibe, I can feel your vibe.
Like, will this work?
Exactly.
Yep.
And that one's free. That's like 10-15 minutes.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Bringing your brain's awareness to your body.
Yes.
Helping you be adaptable and regulate,
Yes.
and facilitating the inner healer to do what it can do.
Exactly. Our innate intelligence is beautiful. So.
Is there a third key takeaway?
I mean, yeah. I think you got it. Where it's kind of just connecting your brain to your body, your awareness to your body, getting your body to be able to adapt to its environment, and trusting your body again.
Trusting your body again.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Bingo.
That's what it is. Well,
thank you.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So.
Ta-da!